Hey everybody,
Hi.
welcome to another episode of Make Mine Mayday. This time we're going to be covering issues 28 through 32 this particular episode. And we've got Kelly. Hello, Kelly.
Hello.
Want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Spidey Network. Thanks to our two patrons, Scott and Vinkman. Thank you guys for your help and your contributions to the website. Definitely helps. And if you want to figure out what else is going on, well, the fuss is about, go to patreon.com/Spidey Network. If you want to be a part of the program yourself and want to have a voicemail played on the show, you can always do 818-925-6631 or leave us an email if you like, makemymayday@gmail.com or SpideyDudeRadioNetwork@gmail.com. And if you want to join a great Spider-Girl community, you can always go to r/Spider-Girl, or you can go to our Mayday's Hangout on our Discord page. Come hang out there. So we got some guys saying hello. Ryan says hello. Vinkman says hello. And thank you guys for your support. And so we're, like I said, we're going to get started really quickly. Now I've been seeing pictures of it in the wild. Kelly, have you got?
Well, I mean, yeah. Okay. So fun time story. I had it shipped to an Amazon locker since I didn't know if I was going to be here or at my parents or at work or whatever. The way back before COVID times when I had pre-ordered Volume 3, I would have it for today, but my car decided it needed all of my money, and I only got it back yesterday and did not go to the Amazon locker yesterday and have not had time because adulting and work today. So tomorrow I should pick it up, but it is out there. Apparently, I think the official thing is that the first pushback date, which I think was a week before 4/20, that was the true date. It was Amazon and a couple of your larger retailers, due to the storm that happened a few weeks ago, did not get theirs until last week, and it was more than likely just logistics on actual shipments into their warehouses to get them ready for
That's my mother calling.
Wow.
Sorry,
okay. Okay. But yeah, it was just more of that. So they are out there. I think the day that it dropped off Amazon, they, through pre-orders alone, only wound up with about 19 left online.
Get them while you still, get them while you still can.
And they gave us a discount because, I mean, I was willing to pay the $50 basically, but it actually came out, I think, $44.95 after taxes for me.
Yeah,
I think it was like 38. I think and then even then it went down to like $38.99 the next day to try and get rid of those last couple. But that means that when it sells out, they can ask for more, and that's what you got to do.
So buy them. Give them, donate one to your library. Donate, keep one for yourself. Libraries will always take trade paperbacks. Sorry about that.
Not all libraries.
Yeah, moms like to call it odd times. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
She didn't realize she was making a cameo appearance in the podcast today. Yes, I have not gotten my Volume 3 yet. I forgot that it'd been so long since I hadn't double checked my pre-orders, so I have to go back and fix that. They've got it on hold for me, but I haven't got it yet. So I was like, why haven't I gotten it yet? And sure enough, that's why. But well, that's sad. Vinkman's not gonna be able to watch the entire live stream, but you can always go back and watch the live stream.
Come back and watch. I mean, we also need to get our audio only caught back up.
That is my objective for this next week.
Okay.
Since there is no Spidey Dude experience, there will be a Make Mine Mayday, but there's no Spidey Dude experience. I'm not releasing any new episodes of ASM Classics. Obviously, the finale of Spec Radio is this week. As of this recording. So I am taking the entire week and working on getting all of the audio for Make Mine Mayday and Spidey Dude Experience caught up, especially because I want to push everything for the month of May. starting in May,
Wow.
my goal is
We need to work on scheduling our episodes
yes,
as well. So
yes, we'll definitely
we need a behind the scenes meeting on that.
yes.
But yes, okay. So that's still fine. Everything's gonna be fine, Viekman. You can still catch us, and we are gonna work on getting our audio only out. So yay.
Yes, so that is the goals next week. First with make my Mayday, and then Spidey Experience after that. So and getting those squared away, and also making sure that all our streams are good, because Spidey Experience for some reason was showing up twice on Spotify, so I got to figure out why that's happening. But anyway,
yeah,
that is the housekeeping, so to speak, of stuff that we got going on. One of the things I want to do, and as I was going to say, is starting in May, be caught up on our audio, so that way our patrons like Vinkman get our audio before everybody else. That is
good.
They get the audio first, because that's one of the perks. Also, we're going to try to get together one weekend night and do like a shoot the breeze interaction with our patrons. So if you want to be a part of that, join patreon.com/Spidey Network. So that is our plan. So we're just trying to get things a little bit more consistent. It was my fault we fell behind. But and there's some also new stuff that's coming behind the scenes for StreamYard that I'm really excited about. It's gonna, I think, enhance these streams overall.
We'll see. We'll see how it works, because it's always glitchy when it first comes out. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on with the show, because I don't think we have any real Spider-Girl news. And we do have a lot to get through.
Yes, we do. So Kelly and I were talking. There's something that's notable about this particular episode, is that we have a new editor-in-chief in the credits. And so we wanted to kind of talk about what's going on with Marvel at this time. Misspelled the banner. So for those of you watching us on YouTube, you're seeing me. So let me kind of briefly explain. Bob Harris takes over as editor-in-chief in 96 or 94 as part of the 5 editors-in-chief with the X-Men, and then eventually becomes the sole editor-in-chief. His tenure would end in the year in 1999. Now, Joe Quesada, or excuse me, 2000. Joe Quesada takes over after Bill Jamis becomes the president. There had been a rotating cast of people at the president's level. Jamis was kind of brought in to kind of take a good hard analysis of the overall line. Harris had approved things like the Buzz miniseries, like Dark Devil, but there was also a lot of cost-cutting measures going on at this time, because Ike Perlmutter and Avi Arad had merged Marvel with Toy Biz. And as a result, they were, draconian cutting of costs with Perlmutter. So as a result of that, a lot of things started to getting cut. And that was one of the reasons that Fantastic Five and Wild Thing were only 5 issues, and that we only had miniseries of Buzz and Dark Devil. So those are some reasons why those things were happening. And so Joe Quesada takes over as of issue 28. So after just a little over 2 years publishing time of MC2 is kind of in a precarious situation and was constantly on the chopping block. Really, yes, we've talked about 17. Yes, we talked about 12. And we even talked about 27 being a soft ending that was potentially planned. But Spider-Girl's sales had stayed so consistent that it kept getting renewed. And we'll talk about that as we go through these recaps here. So the way we're going to do it was like we've been doing in these last few episodes of Spider-Girl. Kelly's going to do a couple of recaps. I'll do a couple of recaps. We'll kind of go back and forth. But that's really more or less what's going on at this exact moment. When we get to more pertinent stuff like Season of the Serpent and March for Death, I'll definitely go into more about what Jamis and by proxy Quesada were really pushing at that time. But we're about 30 or so issues away from that. So we're this is just kind of a tease of an ongoing thing where we'll talk about what's going on with Marvel as much as possible. A lot of my sourcing, just so that everybody knows, and I highly recommend this. Marvel: The Untold Story by Sean Howe is a fantastic, fantastic book. It's available on Kindle, ebook, Barnes and Noble. Also, I think available in paperback. It's a really great read if you really want to know the history of Marvel comics as a entirety. It goes all the way back to the earliest days of Martin Goodman, all the way through the Disney acquisition. So, great book. Highly recommend that. So, if you want to know more about what's going on, they don't talk a lot about MC2 in the book, truth be told, but they talk about a lot of things going on or in Marvel, which indirectly affected MC2. So that's what's going on with Marvel time. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kelly and we can kind of get to the reviews if you're ready.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm ready. Let's hope my internet wants me to be ready. All right. So we're going to start with Spider-Girl 28. And it was released November 8th, 2000 with a cover date of January 2001. So we're starting to get to the official end of the 90s. and the 9/11 issue will be coming up soon.
Yeah.
Although I like the one we had because it had nothing to really do with it, but it hits nonetheless. That one's going to be a fun one for us to try and review, by the way.
Yeah, that one is gonna one's gonna hit very different.
Yeah, but it's one of my favorite things of all time. So,
Agreed.
All right. So, Spider-Girl 28, the breakdown. We see raptors stealing food over jewels now, which is quite different things and generally have very different motivations in stealing. So, what's going on, Brenda? Well, we don't find out on the next page because we cut to May sleeping in since she doesn't have any spider powers. She really doesn't need to be getting up at 5 a.m. for training. As May makes herself some cereal, Peter gets caught by MJ trying to flick a piece of toast at May's head to see if May maybe gets her spider powers back. May understands the silly food fight and tells her father how much she misses her spider sense and how she uses hers, which is a little different than the way Peter uses his. And he wasn't quite aware hers worked differently, or that he could use his spider sense in that way. May sees that Raptor is on the loose looking at the Daily Bugle, and she feels responsible to catch her. Moose is avoiding Courtney because of the last issue, like he said he would. But obviously it's hurting Courtney's feelings because she really doesn't quite understand what's going on with Moose. And Jimmy is watching, intent on doing something. But we don't know what, because he just looks like he's going to murder everybody. Because that's the way Jimmy looks. May skips class to visit Normie, who is in psychiatric treatment after last issue's events. May asks him if he misses being the Green Goblin and explains she can't really be the web swinger she once was. So Normie suggests to just become a different web swinger. Also, Normie picks a flower from the garden and then gives it to May. And I am going to note all of these little things and hints we get along the line because I do think it's going to be an important topic later on for us to discuss. And we cut back to school and Jimmy is still looking like he's going to murder somebody at lunch when Brad comes and kind of stands near him because he doesn't sit down even though Jimmy's sitting by himself. I don't get Brad. Anyway, they talk about the misunderstanding between Moose and Courtney. And Jimmy goes back to staring and contemplating what Brad told him, that Moose is thinking that Courtney is dating JJ, like the rumor mill does, and just kind of thinking about what he can do to make his friend happy. As May destroys her flower, probably in contemplation over what to do about Brenda, she decides to make a call to Phil, who is at the police station. Meanwhile, Jimmy confronts JJ over talking, over what he's doing with Courtney, And, you know, JJ feels like that's intrusive, which I agree, because Jimmy doesn't know JJ and could have just talked to his friend Courtney about all of this and figured this out from her. But all right.
Yeah,
You know,
this plot is a little contrived. I'm not gonna
well,
lie.
no, it makes perfect sense. The issue though is like there is this underlying current of Jimmy wants to talk to people man to man, and I'm not okay with that because he could have just talked to Courtney and it would have resolved everything. But he's not going to talk to Courtney. He's going to keep talking to the men in the situation. Because you think about like, and see, even Davita gives JJ the cold shoulder, but like Davita's a gossip hound, so Davita loves the gossip and just trusts it.
She feeds off
Jimmy
of it.
knows better. Jimmy knows better, and yet Jimmy doesn't stop. He just keeps doing this anyway. Because I mean, and it does really adhere to Jimmy's attitude, like towards the whole. He didn't seem to care that May had no feelings for him, like that, and all he was doing was being creepy. But anyway,
well, this is going to come up in issue 32. I know we're going to talk about that because there's one panel that I went, dude, really,
yeah,
dude.
We'll get there. We'll get there. All right.
Sorry,
but no, you're fine. So anyway, Phil in his Golden Goblin garb meets up with May and is ready to kick some raptor butt, but that's not quite what May had in mind. Jimmy decides, back at the school, Jimmy decides to antagonize Moose, calling him a coward for basically, respecting Courtney's wishes. Like, Moose misunderstood, but Moose is being respectful. Anyway.
He's being the most mature, even though he's being slightly immature.
Well, as to quote him, he is being a bonehead, but he's not being an immature bonehead. He listened to what she said. He took it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But he still listened to her. Yeah, but he still listened to her. Versus Jimmy has not even talked to his friend. Anyway, calling him so Jimmy calls Moose a coward, and then Jimmy explains that JJ and Courtney are just friends, much to the excitement of Moose. We cut again to Raptor stealing some food again and leaving it on a doorstop. As Raptor flies away, she's hit by a pumpkin bomb, and Spider-Girl is on Phil's glider using the pumpkin bombs. Raptor tells her the glider is ridiculous, which no comment. And they fight as Raptor explains, she's stealing food to help her victims because she doesn't want to create any more trouble and wants to help. And this is basically the only way she knows how to do this. And, she's, especially now that she's kind of on the run from the law, it kind of makes sense. This is the only way she feels like she knows how to do this. May tries to tell her that, she could get a good lawyer and maybe get out of some of this. But Brenda knows that her crimes are going to equal some jail time no matter what, and she doesn't want to risk it. Raptor gets the best of May since May doesn't have her spider sense, and she goes crashing down. We cut back to the library where Moose talks to Courtney and they make up, which makes Jimmy finally smile and look less murderous slightly. And Raptor, then we cut back and Raptor is getting the best of May, like I said, causing her to wreck the glider. And May realizes she can't always rely on these spider goblin gimmicks all the time. This isn't going to work. So she needs to do more thinking and more planning. And so it's time for plan B, which means getting up at 5 a.m. and working out. And that is the end of this issue.
This is a good one. I love this cover. This feels, and knowing what we know now, this was being created at the tail end and being, scripted and, produced at the end of the Harris administration. And it feels much more classic than what we're going to get later, as we'll explain moving forward. So I really like the cover. I really love the artwork. Pat's art is just great. The page with May, just acting like a typical teenage girl. I'm like, okay, that's May. you know, where she's
Wait,
she
wait,
doesn't feel
wait, sleeping in is a teenage girl act because like I mean that's what
it's a
everyone
teenage
should
act
do.
in general is what I'm saying, because sleeping in as a dude, I was one of those teenagers that loved sleeping in. I didn't like getting up early.
Once I slept a full 24 hours and my mom asked what's wrong with me.
Oh dear. I don't think the most I've slept is 18 hours, but that's because I was like up for like almost 48 hours straight with like no sleep.
I have honestly no clue what had happened. I
Just
was that
developed
tired.
narcolepsy for that night.
I was that tired. I was that
well,
tired.
your body
I mean,
needed
in fairness, when do I really sleep now?
it. If you were able to, you would mainline like iced coffee into your veins. Like you wouldn't even drink it. You'd just be like, "Get me an IV of iced coffee. I'm good."
Okay, so like the only reason we even knew something was wrong with the car is because I went to get iced coffee, and I still haven't been able to get my iced coffee.
Oh, Kelly.
That's why those sweets suck so bad.
Oh.
Anyway.
So no,
yeah.
like I say, love the issue. I like the relationship with Normie that's starting to be developed in this issue. You know, May going to visit Normie just feels like a very May thing. And the way Raptor's trying to go.
I like the delinquency right away. The truancy, just not screw it. Just skip in school. Gonna go hang out with my friend at the sanatorium.
Yeah.
I mean this in a good way. Like I really I love their friendship. I love both characters to death. They are my favorite. It's just that as I was sitting here trying to write things out, I'm like, this is because it's like that immediately happens, and then you wonder why like Pete feels uncomfortable with her hanging out with Normie.
Yeah,
because Normie doesn't even like question it, other than he's like, "Aren't you supposed to be in school?" And she's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Okay,
moving on."
yeah.
So, like I say, I like this issue a lot. Some of the ads kind of take me back a little, especially Ultimate Spider-Man, which I know we're gonna have to talk about in a future episode. And talking about
We don't have to.
Well, just talking about the dichotomy between them pushing Ultimate.
Oh, the way that they were marketing it. Yeah, I mean, there is that, but at the same time, you also then have to go into the atmosphere of the local comic book shops at that time and how, let's say, mostly toxic they were towards certain kinds of comic books over others, and that had nothing to do with necessarily Marvel or even their marketing. It had a lot to do with the people that were on the ground. And anyway, we can go into it when that approaches. I mean, from my thing is like, I agree with you on a lot of this. To me, it's a good issue. I really like it. I really like that Raptor really does think that this is the best she can do, even though like there's still very selfish means and motivation in what she's doing, because it's to make herself feel better, and she's still being a criminal, and it's all to avoid jail. And it's not, the thing is like, as much as it's like, okay, she's sort of getting in the right directions, she is still vastly lost, because this is the world she's grown up around and the world she's been around. And so she really doesn't know entirely how to be a good guy. And I do like seeing that, because it's like, it's very much a misunderstanding, obviously, too. It's like I said, normally people steal food because they have to. They don't steal food just because. I mean, unless they've got like a mental, like they're a kleptomaniac or something. But normally you steal food because you have to. You have to eat. Versus, stealing jewels is a thrill seek, or it's to make money. It's never like just because you have to. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring up, because it's like she feels like, okay, these are the essential things that I have to do.
Exactly.
Versus that. And then, as I've always said, Jimmy creeps me out. I don't know why. But he keeps creeping me out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like, I get it. He's a friend, and he is like, I guess, a decent guy. Like, he cares about his friends, but like,
yeah.
I don't think I'd like if he was a real person, I don't think I'd like him. I think I'd be vastly annoyed with him most of the time.
So, by the way, to all the Zoomers, we had Pokemon well before you guys did. Okay, got to catch them all now. For those that are watching, they're listening
They
to the
know
audio
that.
version.
That's rude. That's so rude. They know
That's
that.
I know, but I just saw this ad and I was like, "Oh, it's Pokemon 2000." I remember watching that movie in theaters because
Yeah, you know what? And they remember watching it on DVD and not VHS like that.
right? Yeah, that's a VHS, isn't it? Yep, that's now on DVD and video cassette.
Yeah.
But yeah, it also came with the exclusive Pokemon card too. But yeah, so definitely takes me back. That and Buzz Lightyear. I didn't watch one Saturday morning because I was starting to get a little too old.
No, I mean, I wasn't, and I didn't watch Buzz Lightyear because I'll hold my opinion.
It wasn't the real Buzz Lightyear.
No, I mean, well, it was. Well, no, because it's the in-universe situation. I mean, and that's fine. I just, it wasn't my cup of tea. I think somewhere around this time, I don't know. I watched things like Recess and Doug and Hey Arnold and Rocket Power and Fillmore when Fillmore came out. But see, even then, I was probably getting a little too old for but Fillmore was only one season anyway. But I like the stuff. I like the stuff that had really good stories.
Yeah.
Not to say that that's not shots fired, but I liked I liked having like really like a really good character driven story even at a very small age. But let's go ahead and get into issue 29.
There we
All
go.
Right. So, cover date February 2001, released December 13th, 2000. So, the last issue of 2000.
Oh, wow.
Wow. 21 over 21 years ago. All right. So, the breakdown starts. May is training with the Lady Hawks and gets the wind knocked out of her. Phil reminds them training's almost over and everyone needs to get where they need to get to. So school, work, etc. As the twins duck out, Phil lets May kind of have it on how unwise this looks and how dangerous it is if she doesn't have her spider powers. May lets this sink in at school when she sees Nancy Lou being shown around by her boyfriend, JJ. So someone maybe should have been paying a little bit more attention to her friends. Though losing her powers is a big deal, and I get it. I just also get that her friends don't know what they don't know. So it's sad. I do have to say though, like nobody. So did anybody see her get kidnapped by Normie? Like at all? Or did they even like report that? Like what happened there? Like what was the aftermath of that? Because like if she got kidnapped, wouldn't they actually like want to pay attention to her or understand if she needed to like leave school for a bit? Because there would be some trauma there, but apparently nobody really cares if May got kidnapped. Everyone still just cares about JJ and Courtney getting kidnapped. And I'm kind of a little lost on what's going on. But I will also find any excuse to like make everyone feel really bad that they don't treat May right. She does a good job. She does a very hard, thankless job of saving their butts, and all they do is just leave her and start dating new girls because she's not emotionally available. So anyway, at the police lab, Peter is saying how he'd never quit being Spider-Man. So revisionist history here, or a difference in MC2 versus 616. We don't know. And Phil reminds him, he did quit. And then Peter only acknowledges the loss of his leg. But Peter is worried about May doing something foolish, and Phil agrees. Meanwhile, May and Mary Jane get into a really heated row because May tells MJ she wants to be a non-powered superhero like the Lady Hawks or American Dream. MJ, with every reasonable fiber of her bones, tells May she might be an above-average athlete, but she's no match for the guys with guns. May busts out of the door in a really dramatic fashion to visit Normie, and she goes over the fight as they play pool. Normie agrees with Mary Jane, and May does too, but May doesn't want to quit being Spider-Girl, especially with Raptor still hanging over her conscience. Normie suggests that they lied to the sanatorium to make a field trip because he thinks that he might have a solution. I feel like this is like also within maybe 2 or 3 days of one another. So like within 2 or 3 days of Normie being like really supportive of her, they have lied to his doctors, and she has skipped school. Just throwing this out there.
Not a good look, Mayday. Not a good look.
Not a good look on either of them because he's 19.
Yeah, he should. Well, he should know better.
He's 19. She's 15. This is not a good look on the outside. Anyway, they head to one of the goblin hideouts. The Normie's not sure if his dad or his grandfather bought it, but the utilities are paid through a blind trust, and May is welcome to anything in the building she might need, including way newer goblin gimmicks. Normie feels like he owes her his life, and the least he could do is continue to keep her hero game going. So May suits up, gets her gear on, and flies off. As May flies around on the glider, she does let us in on a little Normie secret. He's afraid of heights, and flying makes him nauseous. Meanwhile, May is trying to find Raptor, and a costumed hero busts out of the Daily Bugle, who is apparently a hunk, and even May calls him cute stuff out loud and like openly antagonizes him, trying to talk to the guy about the damage he just caused. When Nova comes in, tells May to back off. They argue because no, he doesn't have the right to tell her to back off. That's rude. He needs to stop being a Richard. And a fight ensues. As much as May doesn't want to fight the super hunk, she does what she can to subdue him, but it's really not a match for him, and it's clearly not a match for Nova because he goes down. And he doesn't. And this new superhero, even though we know who he is in hindsight, but he doesn't want to give his name, as knowledge is power. I do respect that attitude. And as the guy flies away, Nova starts in on how Spider-Girl should have backed off, and May rightfully tells him to shut up. She tells him that he can't discourage her, and Spider-Girl is here to stay. As May passes by Cafe Indigo, she does see JJ and Nancy having coffee together and feels really bummed out. And that is the end of issue 29.
All right. So, again, the best thing about this issue is that Mayday finally puts Nova in his place and finally stands up to him.
I mean, I enjoy Normie helping her out, and the start of the quote unquote website. Because
I call it the hideout in my recaps.
It is a hideout. It is a hideout, but then it got called the website, and like Peter calls it, the Bat Cave.
Yeah. This image right here of Mayday putting the costume on, really good, often used. I think it was actually used in the Spidey Encyclopedia entry for Mayday. I don't have handy, so I can't double check that. But the ads take me back. This is the start of the Ultimate Universe. I like this. I like the Mystery Man. I like this element. When I started rereading this, when I finally got the single issues.
Yeah, but we know how old he is, May. Like, what is May doing?
Yeah, May. What are you doing?
He's flirting with men older than her.
Yeah, that could be like, yeah. So, we don't want to spoil for those that are following along who this character is, but needless to say, it's going to be like 60 issues down the road. We'll see him on. I mean,
you start to kind of figure it out in the issues that you cover.
Right. There's some hints that are being thrown out here.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just more of like, I was waiting on those issues because I thought they put it in one of those, but if not, then yeah, you're right. It is going to be later.
So from reading this, they start hinting at it here, but they don't go into explicit detail of the origins until way later. So there will be a full-blown explanation, but you're getting the subtle hint.
Once we get a hint, and I mean, I think we can just kind of go out and say it because it's, I mean, it's Brody.
Yeah. It's Brody. It's a Brody cyborg.
Well, that's the part we need to wait on. We don't want to spoil things on our, going over a 20. As we stated, this is a 21-year-old issue.
That's true. So
we didn't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah. So sorry.
We get there.
Yeah, May is very much acting out in this issue, and you're starting to see a little bit more of her acting a little more defiant, which I appreciate.
I think the issue I never took, so I think like maybe I took it as slightly defiant in the beginning, but like even me rereading this, I don't think she's necessarily being defiant on purpose. Like the issue is she is determined, and we'll talk about this a little bit like later, but she is so determined to prove herself, maybe not even to like, it's not even to others, it's to prove to herself that she still is Spider-Girl regardless of these powers or not. Yeah. Because it is, she knows that it's almost this nagging responsibility in the back of her head. She knows she has to go out because Raptor is her responsibility. She's let her go. She was supposed to get captured and didn't get evaded capture. That is her goal. She has to go do that. So how is she supposed to do that without her spider powers? Because the thing is there is no, like, when everyone's saying, well, you don't have spider powers, so you can't do anything. So bye. She's like, there has to be something I can do. And it's almost the opposite of Pete. Because what was it like when Pete loses his powers? Pete quit being Spider-Man. As we discussed, the revisionist history, if it is aligned with the 616. But again, as we stated last episode, it might not quite be the case, and there might be a lot more differences in that past than we are aware of.
Yeah, 32 is really an example of that too. There's obviously a lot of hidden years to steal a X-Men title that was being published at the time by John Byrne. This issue is really great. Obviously, for me, for those that are listening to us in the audio version, I'm pointing to the Activision's first Spider-Man 3D game on the PlayStation 1. I played it on the N64, but because I didn't have a PlayStation at the time. Okay. But
I'm sorry. I was actually talking about the issue, and you literally said, "Oh, anyway, here's this."
Oh, my bad. Continue. I thought.
No, we were talking about Peter and how he didn't have power. Like May is the opposite of Peter in this.
Sorry,
she doesn't have her spider powers yet. It's not going to keep her from donning her webs.
Right, and that's also the Peter felt the burden of Spider-Man differently than Mayday. Doesn't feel like it's a burden. It just feels like that's something that it's the right thing to do, and that is something that's different than Peter. Because Peter, when he quits, he just quits. You could argue too that he directs his need to serve with his job, becoming a CSI and an investigator. So there is that element. So he does take a different track of responsibility.
I'm even talking about the 616, where when he doesn't have the powers, he still stops.
Yeah. Well,
it does eat at him too, but like it's a different way than it. With her, she immediately sees it on the Daily Bugle and goes, okay, I have to do something. And just where Peter is constantly like, oh, but if I do this, everything else, because we can already see what's happening to May. She's losing her social life completely. She's not there, but it's like it bugs her when she sees it, but she still moves on. Versus whenever it happened with Pete, it really did bug him, like to the point that he didn't know how to balance it. She kind of is just like,
and that also goes into
more important. Too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that goes also into too. Sorry about the squirreling. That goes into Mayday's always been able to balance the different social circles because she's friends with all the popular people, she's friends with all the geeky people, and they start coalescing towards each other over the course of the series. But she's always been able to do that, and suddenly. With Spider-Girl now, it's you know, you can get it over, you can get there fast, quick, and in a hurry when she had her powers, but now she's having to use, you know, things that she's not as familiar with. I mean, she's got natural skill because she has that natural athleticism, like you've talked about, but you know, it is weighing on her. And with Peter, I just feel with May, there's not a sense of guilt. It's just more of a sense of obligation.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I wouldn't necessarily say obligation as much as it's like, it's not a guilt driven sense of duty. It's a service to your neighborhood. It's a service to your world. She wants to do the right thing, and she wants to help people at the end of the day. And that's and like that, she's found a way to, you know, as has been said in multiple interviews with the creators, like this Spider-Girl is a way she balances everything that makes her May in, you know, at all, like in one time, because if she's with a popular kid, she can't kind of be, you know, nerdy, because I know, like, we'll see later on, like, she does like science, and it always seems to be English is kind of her struggle bus, you know, but she likes science, she likes math, with, but she also likes to be a jock, and she does like gossiping with her friends, and, you know, just being, you know, she likes hanging out with everybody, but she sometimes in those social circles, she has to kind of hide bits and pieces of who she is, versus when she's Spider-Girl with the mask on, she can just be herself. And
it's very similar to her dad in that way too, because sometimes it feels like the real Peter's the one that faces the criminals, and Peter Parker sometimes can be a mask depending on who's writing him. And you're right, she does. I feel like that she feels this sense of for me, when I look at May, I think of Ben, how Ben approached being Spider-Man when he was tasked with the mantle, is that he was much more fun and, you know, kind of footloose and fancy. Like he kind of had a joy about it that Peter didn't approach, especially in that era of when that was being published. So I kind of look at May in that sense of she does it because she feels an obligation, but also because she is having fun with it.
Yeah.
And so and this is an interesting dichotomy, because, you know, there's a lot of issues here, and nearly every issue we cover tonight, she doesn't have the powers.
No.
So
she doesn't get them back till next. It'll be in our next episode.
And Ron Ron Friends has a comment. Hello, Ron. We'll be talking about your artwork here in a little bit. For May, it's an inbred sense of responsibility, and I could agree with that.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, she's probably heard the speech 100 times, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, in various ways, I'm sure, from the entire time she's been alive for Peter. So again, a really good issue. Like I said, real brief, great artwork, and just a really fabulous stuff. And yes, the ads always take me back, but from here, I'm jumping to the recaps.
Yes.
Starting with issue 30, which has, again, for those that are not watching us on YouTube or you're listening to us in the audio, I'm holding the covers up. Issue 30 is kind of unique because it's a homage to the first Spider-Girl cover, and it's got a kind of a strange trade dress here.
I mean, I really like the cover. Like, I think that it's a very different cover, but it's also got kind of a, like, even if that was put out now, like, I think it'd be really interesting and dynamic. The only issue is it just feels so it looks so final.
It does have a sense of.
Why does it look so final? Because I don't remember it, like, I don't remember thinking it was supposed to end at that issue. But at the same time, I think, like, at the time this came out, January 24th, 2001. So I don't really remember. I don't think I was on the internet at 10.
So I have tried looking through the archives. Unfortunately, there was a lot that was lost before they took it down on comic boards.
Yeah.
Because the way their archive system worked, it was a rolling archive, and so things would fall off over time. And they only kept about 10 years worth of stuff. They kept it all the way back, which I understand.
Okay. It's a server issue. You can't keep everything.
Yeah. So if you're looking in the original comics too, it is a little different on the next issue blurb from 29. But it's
asking if it ended in a splash page, and I can't remember.
Number 30 does end with her in the splash page. Yes.
Okay. Then.
So that answers the question. We were talking about this literally right before we got on air.
Yeah, but that's such a weird. Okay, that's a weird splash page though, because
it is a weird splash page because she's flying in the glider. So, okay, all right. Issue begins.
Okay.
With Mayday, and she's training with Stinger in American Dream. The title of the book is Winds of War. DeFalco and Pat Olive do script pots and pencils. Al Williamson's the inker. John E. Workman has been doing the last 2 issues lettering and does all the letters for the rest of this episode. So different letterer we got starting with issue 28. So they're chatting things up when suddenly Mainframe comes out. Mayday throws a pumpkin bomb at American Dream and ends up hitting Mainframe, which Mayday has to apologize for. But she's being summoned because Tony Stark wants to talk to her. So May gets to meet Tony Stark for the very first time, demands her presence. He's very displeased with the events of last issue and wants to know more about the situation with Buzz. And May is really put off by this. She's very upset at the fact that Tony's, kind of just being rude towards her. She's talking with Normie back at the hideout, and then Mayday ends up going to the Daily Bugle on her way home. Talks with Miss Moore to try to get some more information when suddenly the door is open, and guess who's there? It's Tony Stark. Tony Stark was the funded Project Human Fly, which I don't think I'm going off memory, but I don't think that was revealed in the Buzz miniseries. This was the first time that I think it was talked about.
They talked about a benefactor.
Yeah, but they didn't actually say who it was. And so we get the reveal that it was in fact Tony Stark and Stark Global. So she sees also the Mystery Man and his civilian guys following Tony. But then guess who's there? It's JJ with Nancy, and she's kind of a little. It's Nancy. So JJ's going to go talk.
It makes sense. They haven't talked, and he's just hanging out with her.
That's true. She's put off by it, though. I'm just going off what's in the issue. But
I know.
As you explained, makes sense. It makes sense in story. So Mayday's kind of lost in thought. So she decides that she's going to take matters into her own hands. So she decides to leave a message for Raptor in the sky. JJ sees the message, and he's, kind of getting his thinking, I need to go take care of, maybe I should need to go follow Spider-Girl around to kind of get talk to her. Mayday gets home and gets confronted with Peter, MJ, and Phil. So they all saw her message in the sky. And, this is where the chickens have kind of come home to roost, so to speak. And, Mayday reveals that she's been hanging out with Normie. MJ gets in her face and she's like, what are you trying to prove? And, she's trying to prove, and she says it implicitly, that she's more than just the powers. And so they ground her. So she is grounded. Meanwhile, while she's sitting at home being grounded, Raptor goes to the just wondering what's keeping Spider-Girl. Meanwhile, the Buzz is buzzing around trying to find Spider-Girl herself when the Avengers are out trying to hunt down the Buzz. So we then cut back to the height. Obviously, Raptor ends up taking off because Mayday's not showing up. We get back to Midtown High School, where May's in class when JJ's asleep and Slattery is, of course, unamused. Uh, Davita does not help the situation with her comment about, wonder what's been keeping him up at night, hubba hubba.
She constantly says this, though.
I know, it's just,
Stop.
I guess I never noticed it until we started like going through and reading these issues so close together.
I noticed it, and everybody else is just like, why do you like not like DeVito? Why do you not like Jimmy? And I'm like, here are my reasons.
Observe, yeah.
I mean, it's not bad. It's just it's kind of awkward. Like she's really, really obsessed with whatever she thinks May is doing at night.
Yeah, and it's
like really obsessed.
It's weird. It's very weird. So Coach Thompson stops the girls in the hallway, says, "Hey, Nancy, you need a recruiter because I'm smelling state championship," because he's being a typical coach, because that's what any coach would do. Now I know in Texas there would be like there's a period you have to sit out like the rest of the season. You can't come in until next season, but that's just me bringing real world things into it. So Moose shows up and is like,
it's real world. I think it just depends on the school.
Yeah, and depends on the state too, if they have and the governing bodies or whatever. So obviously Moose shows up, shows the Daily Bugle talking about how the Avengers are being tasked with capturing the Buzz, which causes Mayday to call Stinger, and she's like, "Look, don't pay attention to the hyperbole. It's basically true, but we're just trying to get some more information from him." So, basically Stinger's like, "Let us handle it. We'll take care of things." JJ then of course shows up and tries to ask her. He's like, "Dude, we haven't been seeing each other all that much. Let's hang out. Let's spend some time together." And Mayday gives him the cold shoulder to go help out a friend. The irony of ironies is that friend is in fact JJ's alter ego. So Mayday decides to do something foolish and decides that she's going to defy her parents and she's going to do what she feels like is the right thing. So she goes back to the hideout, gets the glider, gets the suit, and Mayday. Last splash page of issue 30 is the big splash page of Mayday on the glider going out to fight the good fight. So there was a blurb for next issue. So even though it looks final on the cover, like we've talked about, there was going to be a next issue. So
yeah.
Kelly, what are your thoughts on this? And
so I really remember very vividly reading this as a kid. So I remember my frustration with it, and it's not like bad frustration. It's just more I felt what May felt. So I felt frustrated about her getting grounded. I felt frustrated by JJ. Even though, it is really funny that she's technically kind of blowing him off to go help him, and he's mad. Like, he kind of ultimately gets frustrated with her and is why he goes to Nancy in the first place, because she's not there. But she's been helping him this whole time. They just don't know. And like I said, they don't know what they don't know. So this is how this kind of works. But I don't know. It's just weird to kind of go back and read something that you remember feeling really frustrated with, because I can remember as a kid being so frustrated because I was just like, why'd you ground her? She promised she'd have to be somewhere. So you should just let her honor her obligations. But, that's also like 10-year-old kid speak versus I'm an adult. And I also now understand, now that I have friends that have kids, sometimes that's all you can do in that situation. Because, I mean, she kind of went behind their backs on all of this. And it wasn't right. And they know, too, she literally lit up the sky saying, "Hey, Spider-Girl is going to be right here."
I think in my notes,
it's not a safe situation.
I think in my notes I literally wrote, "Decides to pull a Johnny Storm and send a message in the sky."
Well,
that was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, I think that's the whole situation. I was thinking more like from a parent standpoint. Like all right, we know like Crazy 8, Killer Watt, like all these villains, and she's literally basically saying, "Hey, Raptor, meet me here." And
Yeah.
everybody saw it, so that means even not just Raptor saw it. Like, it's not very safe, and we know she doesn't have her powers. So
Right.
thinking at it from
At
Phil
least
and MJ and Pete's side, that is vastly reckless.
and at least with Pete and Johnny, they always met at the Statue of freaking Liberty. So it would take some time to meet for a supervillain to
No,
meet Peter and Johnny.
no, someone should have wrote a story where that like got ruined too, because that
I
was
mean,
pretty dumb with them too.
yeah, that's
But
true.
you know, I got where it came from. It was just more like I could also understand why she got grounded, is what I'm
Right.
trying to say. As much as I still feel her frustration, because I think that would have resolved so much of the drama that happens later if they had just met then.
Yes, agreed. I felt this is like it's weird reading this as a parent now because I am identifying much more with Peter and MJ than I am necessarily with Mayday, even though I identify with Mayday as somebody that read these these stories over the years. But and unlike you, I wasn't reading them as consistently until about 30 issues from now. But I get why Peter and MJ react the way they do, and Phil's just kind of like the uncle. He wants to be the fun uncle, but then he's like, okay, I gotta support.
Well, I mean, he cares. He is still an adult, and he cares about her. I mean, the issue is like when you kind of take that role of aunt and uncle, regardless if that is blood related or not, you do have a responsibility to help guide that kid to not, at least like not die. So
let's not die. Yeah, I mean, when you're tasked with babysitting a child, the number one thing that you want to ensure is that make sure the child doesn't die. Fall off a sofa and bonk their head, or fight a supervillain unnecessarily. Those are the things you have to ensure. So, so yeah. Like I say, I don't have much to add more than that. I really identify with it. I love the books. I like how Moose is like the most read jock in the history of comics, because like he reads the Daily Bugle every single day, and we've established why. Even though I think he's kind of put aside the whole Courtney as Spider-Girl thing, obviously, as we've talked about in previous episodes.
But he still really likes Courtney, and that's my thing. Is Moose is a good guy, and he honestly thinks things through for the most part. Sometimes things can still get a little miscommunicated, but he always thinks about respecting everybody's wishes, everybody's time and space. He's very thoughtful, and he does think things through, which is something that, as we can tell in her friend group, not everyone does. So.
Well, truth be told, if you're following along and listening to us and following along reading these issues, Moose is probably of the friend group undergone the biggest transformation and the most character growth and the most layers, because he is, in the beginning he's just the bully, and now he's just this really big teddy bear of a guy that just loves his friends, and we didn't see that when he's just the bully. Well, Courtney has brought that out of him too.
Yeah, because he said he wanted to be a better person for her, so that's he feels she deserves a certain kind of man, so he wants to be that, and that's what he's going to do. And I think that kind of helps push him into being a better person, because it's not necessarily like he's changing himself to fit her. He's just saying, this is the kind of person I would like to be, and she's the motivator to make the catalyst for this growth. And I like Moose a lot, so I think he's probably one of my favorites out of the friend group.
Yeah, and look, as somebody that recently got married, you looking for somebody that brings out the best in you, and certainly you see that in Courtney, even though they are in high school, but Courtney has brought out the best in Moose, and that's ultimately what you're looking for in a partner, no matter what it is, no matter who it is. So, yeah, I like I say, love the artwork, great writing, great scripting, very tight. The inks are really good with Al Williamson. You know, I feel like we say that all the time, but you know, we need to say it for repetition's sake because this artwork is really good. I felt like the series just continues to. I'm not saying hit a stride, but it just continues to just get a little. It's subtle in how it gets a little better. You look at issue 30 and you look at issue 1 and you see the growth of Pat's pencils just in that 30 issue span. And yes, there was a couple of fill-ins by our friend Ron Friends, but you know, you look at even the cover of issue 1 and the cover of issue 30, and that's very similar pose, but there is differences, and you can notice those things. And Pat has always, you know, when we talked to him, you know, back in episode 3, he talked about always improving his craft, and so you can certainly see it coming out through the page. So, yeah. All right. So, okay, let's move on to issue 30. And the 30
well,
review,
no.
I'm
31.
Or 31. 31, excuse me. Sorry. I was looking at 30. I was changing the banners. Issue 31. Cover date of April 2001. February 28th was the release date. And I forgot to mention that the release date of last issue, that was my bad, was cover date of March of 01, released on January 24th.
And I thought I said that. I think I said that.
Oh, yeah, you said that too. You said that. I'm sorry. So issue opens with Mayday making her first appearance at Stark Global. I love this scene because she just busts in. And Stark's like, oh, this is Tuesday. So, needless to say,
she busts in, but I don't remember her, like, she doesn't break anything, right? Like, she just comes in.
She breaks the door.
Okay, she does break the door. Okay.
She breaks
the door. 20 deserves it. Okay.
Unfortunately, she interrupts the video call, a FaceTime call between Tony Stark and the president, which is yikes. Needless to say, Tony's security shows up, ready to escort Mayday out the premises, but Tony waves him off, says, "Look, I've been expecting this." So we get a brief recap of the last couple of issues, what's been going on, and his interest. And so Mayday's kind of putting 2 and 2 together. Is like, "Look, I know you sent the mysterious guy out. There's obviously a connection when you're sending the Avengers. What's the story?" So he goes into his side of the Project Human Fly situation with the Buzz and talks about how he just wants the Buzz to come and turn himself in. They'll talk things over. Mayday still keeps defending the Buzz steadfastly. Mayday ends up leaving, and the mystery man kind of has to admire her restraint because she didn't bust through the window. She went out through the rooftop exit. So May is flying her glider. For some reason, Tony decides to call the Fantastic Five. This is a weird thing for me, which then causes Johnny to call Peter, and Peter is just flabbergasted that Mayday has openly defied him. Meanwhile, back at the hideout, May and Normie get to talking, and May's like, "Look, I've already made a bunch of mistakes. Why not make some new ones?" So, Normie's trying to get her to focus on Brenda and the Raptor situation, but Mayday's like, "Look, let me handle this Buzz thing, and then we'll get to Brenda, as soon as we get by." So we then cut to Brenda in her civilian situation where she has, she committed identity theft, made up a fake identity to get a waitressing job, even though she's never had a waitressing job. She's trying to be better.
She's trying to be better. She just doesn't know what to do. Doesn't know how.
She doesn't know how to do things. But JJ's with Nancy, and JJ notices Mayday flying by, so he's like, "I gotta go."
Spider-Girl flying by.
Spider-Girl flying by on the glider. Yes, sorry. To specify. So Buzz shows up, and They meet. Mayday tries to talk some sense into him, and he's like, "I'm not afraid of the Avengers." He thinks he can take the Avengers on alone, when of course they show up because that's how comics work. So a fight begins to ensue, and the Mystery Man suddenly shoots an energy blast and zaps Stinger. A fight, the fight begins to ensue despite Stinger's best efforts. She's trying to like peacefully tell him to calm down, trying to give Mayday the benefit of the doubt. But after Stinger gets zapped, Mainframe's like, J2 and Dream, you guys go find the shooter, and while the rest of us deal with the prisoners. Which Mayday's like, dude, prisoners, like this is escalating quickly. But it's Mainframe, so she should expect nothing less. So the fight continues to ensue. At one point, May throws a pumpkin bomb at Mainframe to try to short out his units, but tells Freebooter to take her down when Brenda shows up and actually bails Mayday out. So Raptor is here, and so she's trying to help them escape. The Avengers begin their pursuit when our Mystery Man shows back up and says, "There's enough talk. I've come to take the Buzz into custody. Like, get out of my way." And so Raptor, Buzz, and Mayday continue to run, but like Mystery Man is just a force of nature, just busting through things. Raptor tries to take the fight to him, and eventually May throws a big giant ghost bomb at our Mystery Man. Looks like he's going to be plunging to his death. Buzz decides to save him, but all the reason he did it was to put a disc on him to recalibrate his armor, and so basically everything's still functional, and we kind of get the first hint that Tony Stark is the man behind our Mystery Man. When we start looking in his eyes, there's some mechanical, optical eye sensors, and Tony Stark is telling our Mystery Man what to say. So basically, the issue ends with Raptor and Buzz arguing with Mayday in the middle, trying to take care of things. He's like, you got some stuff you got to deal with, Spider-Girl. We'll see you later. Bye, and just nopes out of there. So that is the end of our issue 31.
I never took it as a noping out of there. I mean, it was very clearly
yes.
Like it was a calculated thing.
Right.
Because what we're learning here is Tony is playing everybody.
Yeah,
for his own accord, for what he wants.
So basically, Tony, more or less, Tony lets Buzz keep the suit, but he takes the specific parts that were Stark International tech out of the suit.
Because that was his main goal in the first place. That was the entire situation. And again, the whole thing is, literally, my only opinions here were like, whoo boy. But Tony Stark is a jerk, and I don't know why he looks like Walt Disney here. I don't know if that was foreshadowing somehow for real life events later, or if that was just like, hey, could have happened. But also, like, I don't know. I think in other podcasts we've done, clearly we're not big comic book Tony Stark fans. And there's a good reason for that. And that's okay. Because, heroes can still be jerks too. Look at Nova. But the issue here is like, he really gets under my skin here because he's so manipulative but he doesn't even mind. He doesn't even think about the possible casualties and everything like A-Nex has been through. Fantastic Five's been through all that. He knows that these are basically kids, and this is all being done to take some tech out that I can tell you right now, 2 teenage boys totally didn't realize were there.
Yeah, like, again, my thought is that Tony, I would have thought, would have been monitoring this suit, more.
Tony,
because it's Tony, and I don't know if it's fair for me to look at this Tony Stark through the prism of 2000, 90s through 2000s.
I don't think so, but at the same time, it's just, even taking him at his face value here, it doesn't come off well. You come off uneasy. He comes off slightly distrusting, and that's kind of the way it is.
Yeah,
You don't feel like you could trust Tony Stark after this issue.
And it's definitely true. Like Tony comes across as very swarmy and squirrely. But I also, you mentioned that he looks like Walt Disney.
It looks like Walt Disney. Kind of, not like
in my head. When you wrote that, in my head canon, I'm like, if anybody would be that egotistical in the Marvel universe to model himself after Walt Disney, it would be Tony. Like Tony would be like, I am.
I think it was supposed to look more like Humphrey Bogart or something, but like my brain goes to Walt Disney. I'm a kid. I'm a child of the '90s. Sometimes 1950s actors go over my head. Or 1940s. Humphrey Bogart's like 40, so that's even older.
Yeah.
Anyway.
so I mean, he does have a. I just love, one of the things I love about Tony in this issue is that he acts like a superhero busting through his door is Tuesday. Like it doesn't faze him, where everybody else is like reacting because it's been a long time since somebody's probably done this with Tony. But Tony's like, oh, this is old hat. I used to do this on Tuesdays every other Tuesday. I would bust down somebody's door. It's not a big deal. But yeah, you're right. Tony's very manipulative. This is obviously going to play up later on, but and like we talked about earlier, obviously there's more to the Mystery Man. We know that Tony is pulling the puppet strings, and it just feels like it's
by
unfair.
This point, yeah,
it's unfair for him to sit there and manipulate I mean, like randomly calling the F5 was kind of weird to me, just because like I could understand him calling the Avengers, but it kind of felt like, okay, I called, like, it makes me wonder how much Tony knows about Spider-Girl. You know what I mean? Because Tony would be the
and I don't ever think we went fully into that either, though. Like,
yeah, I know.
Like throughout the series, like I don't think that really happened. And the issue though is like, how much does Tony know about all of them at this point? Yeah. Like what does he know? What doesn't he know? Because I would think like if he was monitoring the Buzz suit, wouldn't he have realized by then it was JJ? And
wouldn't he have maybe even talked Jameson down if he knew JJ was behind the suit, because he knows that, hey, he knows a thing or two about trying to protect a secret identity. It is interesting to think about.
It's an interest. My thing is, it's just there's more there, but it's still just coming off like, especially as this is supposed to be with May's point of view in mind. He's not. He might be a good guy, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's a good person.
So briefly, I'll talk about the cover. For those that haven't seen it, it's Mayday surrounded by a bunch of floating heads. They used to call this the floating heads of guilt on ASM Classics. But this is just the floating heads of MC2 with the cover. I really like it. It's a visually striking cover. The colors that are used to do it, where you have everybody but kind of in a green hue, but Mayday's in her usual red and blue and silver colors. It really is visually striking. Obviously, the artwork inside is great as usual. It's interesting to look. You talked about this a little bit earlier with issue 30, but these issues are a time capsule. Especially when you're reading the individuals, it's great to read in trades. Don't misunderstand. If you're following along the complete collections, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah,
because it's
I'm at the point. I'm gonna be honest. I'm at the point where I feel like some of these ads are throwing you off what we're supposed to be talking about, because you get way too into some of them.
Yeah, I have in the past. So, but when you're reading these in the individual issues, if you remember buying them, because like issue 32, I remember buying this, off in the back issue then, several years ago. I remember reading these, they invoke a emotion, that takes you back to that time period if you're reading at the time. But then if you're a new reader reading today and these ads, you're going, what is this all about? And it's interesting to see that, and through the eyes. So when you're reading this in the collections, you're getting just the pure story. Whereas if you're reading this in the individual issues, you might be like, this is kind of, it definitely sometimes breaks up the overall flow. So it definitely reads better in a collection. But yeah, like I say, I really enjoy the issue. I don't like Tony. We've talked about this in much other podcasts.
I think at this point we've established.
But this is the last time he appears for a long time that I can remember.
It is. Well,
so
yeah, for a good bit.
I think he appears like in a cameo for like the Omega Scroll, maybe. I can't remember. But yeah, like I say, this is a really solid issue. If you don't have anything else to add, Kelly, I'll start going into the.
I think we have. I think we've dissected it enough. I think.
All right, so we're going to issue 32. All right, cover date May 2001, released on March 21st of 2001. The previous 4 issues that we've covered tonight have been with Pat Olive and Tom DeFalco, but this issue has a different artist. The cover is done by Pat, very clearly, but the interiors are done by the script, the plot, the pencils are done by our pal Ron Friends. So Ron Friends returns in this issue. So our issue opens with some thugs being stopped by the Steel Spider. I'll explain Steel Spider when I get to my thoughts, because you may not know that this is not a new character. This is actually a pre-existing character.
They do go into his origin a little bit, at least to bring us up to speed to where he is today.
Yes. So he is ready to fight, but the thugs, they're not. They're wanting to surrender. This causes him to fall into despair. Meanwhile, speaking of floating heads, Mayday is surrounded by the Parker floating heads of guilt, deep in thought, when she literally bumps into Courtney. She tells him what's going on with Moose with the broken leg, and because she doesn't actually know about the accident, and that everybody went and visited him in the hospital except for May. So Davida kind of says, look, I tried to call you a couple different times, but your parents seemed to answer and they were perturbed, so I didn't leave a message. Anyway, we cut to the Grime Lab. Peter's trying to devise a way to get Mayday to not be tempted to rejoin the Hero Biz and one of those ways is to get her to lose her job at the Bugle, because he's trying not to give her any temptation to try to jump out and be a hero. So meanwhile, back at the school, Mayday tries to talk to JJ, and JJ kind of does to her what she's done to him, which is give him the cold shoulder. She's like, look, I was needing a friend and I could have talked to somebody, so I went and found another one. And so Nancy was there, and so they hook up, get together, and they're walking to class. And so or walking to the cafeteria, not to class, excuse me. So Mayday decides, look, I've messed up in my personal life enough. I need to go mend fences with my Spider-Girl life. So she suits up and goes to the Avengers compound to try to smooth things over, when American Dream stops her, says, don't go to the compound. Listen, we believe you. When everything was going down with J2 and I, we were trying to find the shooter, and we were trying not to get involved with the gratuitous violence. So she gives Mayday an update on Stinger. Stinger's pretty much fine. She's like, well, you go out on patrol with me. So they decide to go out on patrol. And together, that's what they're doing. So we then cut to when Peter was talking to Phil. He mentioned that MJ was going to talk to Normie to kind of see where he's at, where his head's at. So Normie is very happy that MJ shows up. And he talks to her about and says, when MJ kind of mentions that she's getting out of the Hero Biz, maybe that there won't be a Spider-Girl much longer, and they're just happy that he's getting the help that he needs. And he goes, look, working with her has been really good for me. I would hate to see a world without a Spider-Girl. And it kind of makes MJ sort of pause and kind of consider what the implications would be if there wasn't a Spider-Girl. So meanwhile, we cut back to American Dream and Mayday. They're out patrolling. Great full-page splash of American Dream by Ron. So American Dream starts going into her origin story. And we kind of learn more about how she became the American Dream. And so Mayday's like, well, that's a really cool origin story. Mine's just, I woke up one day with powers, but she's like, hey, what's going on? Then we cut to the hospital where Moose is very morose. I mean, he's very much in a bit of a kind of a personal pit of despair. He doesn't think anything matters because he's not going to be able to get a scholarship in college. He thinks his leg is done. And, Brad is trying to talk Moose up and saying, hey, just do the rehab. Even Jimmy is trying to help out too. And so, Moose says a really prominent line. He goes, it's easy to talk when you're not the one who's facing months of pain and physical therapy. I don't know if I have the strength or courage to fight my way back. And he asked, haven't you backed away from a challenge because it was too hard? And then they decide to have this combined floating thought bubble of May. We cut to what caused Mayday and American Dream to their attention to be averted and their gaze to be averted while they were out patrol. We catch up with Steel Spider, and he's just in a full-blown depression, anger, weepy story. And so we get into his actual backstory. So he was a kid when he invented his mechanical tentacles. He based them on Dr. Octopus, but he realized he wanted to be a hero like Spider-Man. So this was the Spectacular Spider Kid. I think this was a DeFalco Friends creation. Ron, if you're still in the comments, let me know if that is true or not. But there was a time where he was actually filling in and he became the Steel Spider. That was something that happened in the early 90s. Actually, I think it was an issue of Unlimited, and I think it was actually DeFalco. I think it may have been the same issue as the origin of Dr. Octopus when he became the Steel Spider for the first time and took that moniker on, and even shows that costume in flashback. So he had it all. He got the trophy wife. He built a technology business, but then the tech balloon bubble burst, which is very topical as to when this was being taken place. And so everything was he lost everything. So, the girls are trying to talk to him and talk him up and say, hey, it's like, you really were a hero. You were an inspiration. But of course, the soldiers of the serpent have to show up because they have to cause mayhem and trouble. And so Mayday's like, look, you inspired an entire generation of heroes. And so he starts kind of thinking to himself, maybe starts thinking differently about himself. Meanwhile, American Dream and Mayday jump in to the fray, and they start taking on the soldiers of the serpent and start fighting. When it looks like the big baddie is there, and it's looking pretty dire for our two heroes, when Steel Spider shows up and says, hey, you ready to rumble? And then he makes a wrestling reference, which I'm not going to, he basically quotes The Rock. And Steel Spider, boom, knocks the head of the serpent, soldiers of the serpent, into next week with his with his giant snake contraption. And Mayday uses her webbing to wrap things up. And so the girls want to hear his war stories and the time he took on the Septic Sentinel. And a few hours later, Mayday is flying home when who looks out the window but Moose. And he's like, why is she on the stupid goblin glider? And that's when, Jimmy's like, she's been fighting without power. Jimmy and Brad were like, she's been fighting without her spider powers. And so Spider-Girl inspires Moose to keep moving on. So we then get to the final scene of the issue. And the final scene of the issue is Peter going to visit the Bugle for the first time in a long time. And Peter and JJ are kind of remaking each other's acquaintances. So Peter's trying to, butter JJ up to kind of break the bad news that he's, wanting to ask for Mayday to resign her position at the Bugle, when suddenly someone is sitting out the window and Peter's like, it's not possible. And he's like, it can't be you, not after all this time. And so we have somebody dressed up as the Amazing Spider-Man. That is our final splash page of the issue. The end for now. And I don't think that this was supposed to be like a final issue thing, because obviously the very next page is the cover issue 33. But that actually ends and a multitude of things. This is the last of the issues, as Venkman says in the comments, says these 5 issues are the last ones to have the Marvel Comics 2 logo in the corner box. And this also ends Volume 2. So we have now gotten through the complete collection, Volume 2. So, Kelly, your thoughts?
I mean, obviously, I love the artwork, but I have a little bit of a Ron Friends bias because I love all of his artwork, and but the art's really dynamic here. I really like it, especially like going in and reading throughout the week. Just seeing something a little bit different. As much as I do like Pat's art, this was, it. I really like this. I like the artwork in this issue a lot. It's a different feel. I do hate that, May's spider time is getting in the way of her social life, but it is the consequence of being a superhero with a secret identity. You don't get off the hook if your friends don't know what's going on. And, then there's that duality with it too, where since the audience knows JJ is the buzz, we know he's gone through things that he's needed friends for. And while May was there in one way as Spider-Girl, he doesn't know that and only knows that Nancy was there for him when he needed her, which really sucks. So poor May. But again, that's kind of, it's a consequence of that life. It's a fallback. I mean, it's not always, it's not always going to be good things in being a superhero. There's a lot of hard truths to it when you're trying to keep a secret identity. Obviously, I really love that we get Shannon's backstory and the splash page. I mean, what does this new Spider-Man mean? And I put my best guess is trouble, probably.
Yeah. I'll say this: the bit with JJ and May, that is the Parker Luck personified. To me, there's a lot of people
never truly like. I mean, here's my thing too, though. She never truly liked JJ until because the whole issue was like she went with JJ because Brad wouldn't ask her out,
right?
And then they started going out because Brad basically started dating Heather. But like May was kind of on the fence of it the whole time. Not saying necessarily she wasn't into him. It was just more of a, I'll see where this goes versus, and I guess a true intention of dating him. She didn't really have a crush on him, so to speak. And then, now that he's kind of pulling away, she's like, whoa, wait, what? Not realizing that she really didn't do a whole lot to check in while everything else is going on, which, I mean, serious stuff's going down. She lost her powers. That's horrible. But she can't tell anybody about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where the burden of the responsibility, you start to see it affect that social circle. And it gets better and it has ebbs and flows when you read this series throughout it all, but this is definitely a low point. And Steel Spider is a great character to the MC2 mythos. It's a character that was on the young side in the 616, and from the cutoff whenever that is, he would still be a fairly young hero and would have teamed up with Nova and J2 and Jubilee and all those. So it's nice to get that, the hidden years of the MC2 in there. The story of him, very relatable at the time of this being published in 2001. The .com bubble was very, very prevalent. For those that don't know what that is, that was year 2000. The stock market had really been heavily speculative with .coms, with pets.com and all those. Almost like the modern day junk bonds, which is how Marvel was got into the bankruptcy that they got into. And so it's interesting. Also, if you have this individual issue, once again, the bottom credits are mislabeled. It says DeFalco, Olive, and Williamson, but inside it is Al Williamson, still the inker. I think this is the first time and maybe only time that Ron gets inked by Al, but I'll have to double check and go back and double check. But like Venkman said, yes, this is an end of an era because the MC2 moniker and the trade dress itself is going to change starting with this issue. So the changes we're seeing, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you're starting to see that start to form now, and there's certainly going to be a change across the Marvel imprint. Every cover is going to change, and there are going to be some subtle differences, which we'll definitely talk about in the next episode. But yeah, I like this issue. I like that American Dream, and Mate. I just like their relationship. To me, I view Stinger and American Dream in the same way you could view Peter and Daredevil and Johnny.
Okay.
They're all good. The three of them. Now, Daredevil, not as much lately, but historically speaking, especially in the 80s and 90s, they were good friends, and even 60s. Johnny, they are becoming good friends, and I kind of feel that same way with Stinger and American Dream and how their friendship's growing. But anyway, Kelly,
they were always my whole thing with Stinger and American Dream and Spider-Girl, the three of them never felt the need to compete with one another or fight unneedingly. Like, they all kind of just went, okay, you're doing this, I'm doing this. Cool. We'll do this. And, I really like that aspect of it versus, when you talk about like Johnny and Pete, they like to fight.
Yeah, they're more antagonistic.
Different. Like, there's an inherent amount of just respect for what they do and respect for who they are, and being willing to work with that. And it's kind of that whole cringy stuff on the internet, like queens respect queens, or whatever, like you don't tear someone's crown off, whatever, that stuff. That it's just it's a respect there, and so that's where their friendship is it's built upon mutual respect and understanding, and I really appreciate that, because the three of them always kind of have each other's backs, which is really good. I mean, I don't really have a lot more to say on this issue that I haven't already said. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I love this issue. But
so we'll take some comments from our people that are watching right now. For those of you watching Facebook and YouTube, leave us some comments. If you got any questions for us, just flip in the chat. Venkman had to leave. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, that's fine. You can catch it on YouTube, and then when you finish the audio, it should be on all of the podcatchers, like Apple and Spotify. Well, I guess while I wait on a question, if we get any questions,
sure.
Next episode, which I think, unless there is something going on, I think it should be next Friday on the 30th. We're going to go through issues 33 and 38. So instead of just the 5 issues like we've been doing, it's going to be 6, just because I did not want to end on, I didn't really want to end on 37, because that is a weird cliffhanger that did not feel right. So we're going to end it on 38. And
Yeah.
we'll learn more about this mysterious Spider-Man. May's going to get her powers back. A new crime underworld figure comes into play, and that is literally the exact phrase that Marvel Unlimited uses. I mean, it's a new crime boss comes into play and starts to start up a gang war with the Kingpin. Normie does something a little crazy, and May's going to be a what? So I guess we'll just have to discuss it more on the next episode.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited because we're really we are chugging along here, and I'm excited to get into these sets of stories because I think that this is really where the stakes get high pretty fast after this. After this story, really, like things start to really heat up for May and Spider Girl. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, so, yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that whole splash page thing because definitely the end of 30, 37 or 38, excuse me. It has that final splash page and kind of feels a little finality.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that in our planning on if that, because I felt like that one did feel like almost like the end there for sure.
I think this was the first truly organized, and I'll talk with the guys and see if they with like Jeffers and if you guys are listening, shoot us an email, shoot us a DM.
Yeah, totally.
And let us know. But I almost positive this was the first time that there was a more organized campaign with the Save Spider-Girl because of all the chaos going on at Marvel, which I alluded to at the beginning of this episode, and I can kind of get into a little bit more because we'll talk about the trade dress and all the changes that were being made. But yeah, so we'll be covering, if you're deciding to do the digests as well as the complete collections, we'll start Complete Collection Volume 3 next episode.
Yes. So good thing it's out now.
Yeah, exactly.
We timed Amazon's, like Amazon's almost about to sell out. I mean, you got to go pick it up.
Guys. That is really great news for.
We don't know how many they ordered in the first place, but hopefully it was enough. Like, and also if it sold out. And the fact that like I've watched volumes 1 and 2 also sell out throughout 2020, and they've had to get more in stock. And of course, this is Amazon. It's not like, it's not a small mom and pop shop that I would prefer to get my stuff at a local comic shop. But when they're known big name sellers like this, it does kind of weigh a little bit more because it means that, they are truly selling them if they're out of the warehouse like that. So it's a good thing, guys. And seriously, buy it if you don't have it yet. It's a lot of fun.
If you got the money. Yeah, absolutely. Go buy it.
Yeah.
But if we're following along in the digest, we'll be finishing up Volume 6, starting into Volume 7. And I'm trying to remember also when the Scholastic deal started. So I'll try to go look and find when that those were being published and what, and I think I can find that on Mike's Amazing World.
I do remember. I would say 2001, 2002 for sure. I remember them being at the book fair then.
So, but yeah, so we'll actually get all the way through Volume 7 next episode of the digests. Start on Volume 3 of the complete collections. So, we
are definitely getting there. So so it doesn't look like we have any questions, and that is A-okay.
That's A-okay.
I think we can end it here, you guys, but we will definitely be back next week. Unless apocalypse pending, because it's not like I didn't hear this. Yeah, it's not like it hasn't always been, but apocalypse pending, we will be here next week on April 30th, and we will go through these 6 issues that we just discussed and go starting on Complete Collection Volume 3, and we will see you guys next time.
Yeah, be sure to like, share, and subscribe on the channel. That way you can get notified because we're going to try to plan these out and have them ready to go, the streams, you can always go to spidey-dude.com/events. Once we have all the scheduling done, we'll be putting them all up on there. But if you follow along on YouTube and subscribe on YouTube, you'll get the notifications of when we're going to be going live.
You got to hit the notification bell, and even then, sometimes it doesn't work. But
that's true. That's true. But always check back, because we try to stream. We're doing Spidey Dude Experience every other week. We'll continue that schedule. And if we have schedule changes, the best place is to go to spideydude.com/events. I will keep that updated. I did a pretty good job this month of keeping that updated. We'll have next week's stream ready to go, starting with April 30th, and then we'll have the month of May, and definitely at least have that for you guys and the scheduling. There's not as much stuff going on during May, so it should be much more consistent, and so we don't have crazy things going on.
We'll at least for Make Mine Mayday, we will discuss that, because I know at least 2 weeks where we're gonna have to schedule a different time than Friday for me.
Okay,
but
that's So we'll figure that out, and we'll have the calendar updated on spideydude.com. Mm-hmm. The thing with Facebook is I have to do it a week out or less than 7 days before the stream. It won't let me do it further than that. With YouTube, at least, I can schedule them however on whatever dates, however far out. So if you like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, then you'll have, that's what I'm going to be basing the events calendar on, is the YouTube. And then when we get closer to the time on Facebook, I'll update the Facebook page. But be sure to like us on Facebook at Spidey Dude Network on Facebook. Follow Kelly on TikTok and Twitter at Make Mine Mayday. Follow me on Twitter at Spidey Dude Radio, at Spidey Dude Network on Facebook, Instagram, Patreon. That's the place to find you. If you want to leave us a voicemail to play on the next episode, leave us a voicemail at 818-925-6631. Tell us where you're from, what show you're calling about.
No one has to tell us where they're from if they don't want to.
If you don't want to, you just give us your name and what show you're calling about. You don't have to tell us where you're from, but yeah, tell us your name and what and leave your comment, and we'll play it on the show. You can always leave Kelly an email at makemymayday@gmail.com, or you can contact me out no matter what the show is at spideyradionetwork@gmail.com as well. Follow, go on to Reddit.
Yeah.
Go follow r/SpiderGirl. And
don't put the S on there, though. That's a whole different subreddit, and you don't want to go there. But we're Spider Girl. Great group of people. We have a lot of fun. So
absolutely,
join us.
So go check that out. Also, join our Discord. The links on the front page. Discord, our Discord link. We have a Maydays hangout specifically for talking about Make Mine Mayday. We're working on, whenever we go live, letting everybody know via Discord. Me and Neil are working on that, but we haven't got that squared away yet. So when that comes, that'll be there. If you want to also go to our front page of spidey-dude.com, that's where we'll be updating all the audio versions of the show, as well as we got reviews of Amazing Spider-Man. If you want to follow that, by our good friend, I just blanked, but our review of Amazing Spider-Man. Brian, thank you. I had a brain fart for a second there. Brian. I know. I'm sorry, Brian. My bad, Brian. So, Brian, follow Brian on our front page. Amazing Spider-Man reviewer. Great. He's doing a great job. I'm really enjoying his reviews. So thank you again to him. Of course, go to patreon.com if you want to support the show. Patreon.com/Spidey Network. Thanks again to Vinkman. Thanks again to Scott. And we will see you guys next time here on Make Mine Mayday.
Bye, guys.